So the second part is covering the rendering side of things. In part one, we were doing the dynamic simulation of the blueberries, and as you can see here, I was setting up a camera quickly, and here you can see the animation of the blueberries. Here is the untextured version. I was just loading all the textures that were coming with the asset. I was just applying here. I have a roughness, I have a normal, I have a stencil map for the front part, I have a specular color, and I have a diffuse color texture looking like this. So if I press play here, rendering for the preview, as you can see, I still have a normal environment map. I was loading some of my some environment for testing purposes, like for example here, just a normal kitchen. I'm usually having my HDRIs I have in my preset browser, pressing F6, and here in the HDRI section I have indoor, outdoor, studio lighting, and you can then it already previews the EXRs, and you can just drag and drop them from the preset browser into the environment, and you have to set it to afterwards. When you drag and drop it, it's usually by default it's set to here, it's set to projection type UV, but you have to change this to spherical and projection axis to Y. And for my scene I've used a different one, this one here. Just take a look, looking like this. Some outdoor scene, you can see here the sun is coming from here. I wanted to have some kind of rim light. That's the reason why I've added 2 additional area lights to this scene. One is slightly tinted green, so the one from the back, coming from the back side, you can see here it's slightly tinted green, yellowish. The other one here is coming from the front side also, and there's also some slight coloring. Using OmniHall for these kinds of things, or tweaking your lights, is really great. So you just press C, left and right, up and down, and the right mouse button you can tweak the intensity. Moving the light, you just have to the action center. It's recommended to learn the shortcuts for the action center. So it's Alt X to switch it to local, so you can move your lights front to the back. Alt X again, it's back to the default one. So this is when it comes to the render setup. Usually, so we're just going in through the camera here as well. I was setting up a 75mm camera, so less distortion. Adding here, I was adding a depth of field and motion blur. The depth of field you can tweak either by using here the default, so like this you can see it's pretty getting unsharp. You can press Control F and just to click somewhere other. You don't have to click, you just Control F, and wherever your mouse cursor is hovering, it's setting the focus point there. I was also adding motion blur here, so like this. Another thing I was doing, what you have to do is just switching the render engine to mPath. I was also setting this one here, the ray tracing engine, to MBRI. You can also try using SSE if you're running into problems. I was setting everything to 256 samples and a noise threshold of 15%. So if you're adding here samples render output, I'm setting here, I have a normal final color output. I'm duplicating it. I'm setting this one here to denoise. Usually I'm rename it, that afterwards I know what is what. This one here is the raw version, this one here is the denoiser. As you can see here, I'm using ACCG. I was setting up the project using ACCG, and also here the LUT being used is output as RGB. So that everything is in ACES for later usage in After Effects or Photoshop. And once you've set things up like this, you can press F9. And with just going in here, I can't press F9, it would pause my stream here. Press render, so it's rendering everything it's refining. If you take a look here at the shading samples output, you can see that all the samples are being used at the moment for each part of the scene. It's going to take 20 iterations, where at the moment we're at 9. You can see here this lower part is already refined enough, so it's not going to be considered in future iterations. If you take a look here at raw again, it's already looking pretty good. Takes a little bit longer. If you have some kind of stills and you already think that it's good like this, you can press P here, and it's going to ask if you if it should stop after current iteration, so it hasn't reached 20 yet. And this is how it looks like, the final output. This here is how the denoised version looks like, so you can actually can't see any noise in here. And even the raw version looks pretty good without that much noise in here. So usually you're going to blend these two together. You put the denoised version on top of it, making an opacity of something like 80%, so you can have a little bit noise back into your scene. And if you want to take a look here, I would just take one of the frames before, so when the berries are dropping in. So in here in the preview, I have set the motion blur to off yet. So once again, we're just going a render window and just press render again, let it render once again. And here you can see a nice motion blur. And if you're sitting through the whole rendering task, so this you can see that the motion blur is still a little bit noisy, not really disturbing, but the denoised version is perfectly smooth, though you just have to blend them two together when you're doing your comp work. And that's the whole magic. So at the moment we don't have a preview renderer for mPath, but as you can see, it pretty much matches what you can see here in the frame in the preview. So it's a pretty good point. So it really gets there 90% of the way.